They talk about American homeownership being, quote, the American dream.
Right.
Is it still alive for a 25-year-old?
It is. It's always a great time to buy. It's like, that's not true for everybody, you know, and sometimes it's a matter of timing for that person. It's not about the market. The market's going to do what the market's going to do, but it's ultimately, is it your time to buy?
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
You know what's really nice about allergy season in Middle Tennessee is that I'm going to do my best Sean Ryan impersonation. You ever listen to his show?
No.
I don't know.
But I think I've heard the voice before.
He kind of talks like this the whole time.
Yeah.
Very monotone.
You don't know when it's beginning or ending.
You don't know what's going to be said. He kind of just talks like this the entire interview. Tell me more about that thing we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Straight deadpan.
That one thing?
Yeah. It makes you wonder. And I don't want to throw shade at the guy. And he's obviously very successful for a reason, but it's like, my goodness. How did this happen, you know? Because you remember, I don't know, like a couple of months ago, maybe about a year or so ago, he put out a clip that, like, this next episode's going to change the world. The information, I'm doing my impersonation. The information that's going to be revealed is going to just completely change the paradigm of everything we thought we knew. Everything that you think that you know is about to change. Like, it was one of those types of claims.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, okay. You know, as a skeptical podcaster and guy who, you know, came up in talk radio, I was even like, oh, wow, okay, you know, that's a hell of a claim to make. And I went and listened to it. I'm going, there's nothing in here that nowhere near merits the claim you made. Holy crap.
Clickbait.
Total clickbait. So today, yes, this is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. I am Jim McCarthy, your host, coming to you from the it'syourshow.co studios, powered by Muletown Bikes. You been down there in the square?
No, but I've heard of him.
Yeah. He's old Vinny down there, Tavares.
Nice.
He runs it down there, and if you ever need a bike for your kids or something like that, an e-bike. Yeah, I got my Aventon e-bike from him.
Yeah.
Did 17 miles. I've got over 600 miles on that thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you definitely get after it on the bikes.
You see
every now and again.
You're in the adjacent neighborhood to me, so you beep your horn every now and then. You're in the what car do you drive?
Honda CRV.
CRV.
And then, Mama stepped up and she got herself a new Nissan Rogue. You know how it goes. Mom always gets the new car, so it's
something to that effect.
Yeah.
My wife's not a big car person, although she got spoiled with the Mercedes we bought in 2020.
Yeah.
But it was a good deal.
Yeah.
And we needed it to tow a camper, so we're not being bougie.
There you go.
But we kind of are. So Daniel Cruz, good friend of mine.
Yes, sir.
It's always good to catch up with you.
That's right.
We had you on not too long, probably about 2 years ago, I'd say.
Yeah.
And mortgages, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's
fun market to be in right now, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting for certain. Shout out to all the ladies and gentlemen who've been doing it even prior to 2020 and 2021, but to the ones who are still in it, God bless you. And
would you recommend it as a career path for people still?
I'd have to get to know them a little bit first, but not knocking on the industry. It's been a very challenging time, and just kind of rolling with the punches, man.
A good buddy of mine, he just got into it not too long ago, and it's a long sales cycle.
Yep.
You know.
That's it.
Not many people. I mean, there are people buying. I mean, are we kind of stagnant here in Middle Tennessee currently?
No. Luckily, we're in a very insulated market. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, not just here in Middle Tennessee, we work with a lot of builders who do a lot of barn doors and barn dominiums. And not just those, but the concentration is those and even some modular. But East Tennessee is actually kind of blowing up too. That you get a lot more land than what you can get here locally. So we are insulated here in Middle Tennessee, and some of the other markets aren't faring quite as well. So
now, when you're at a networking event, how do you posture yourself? Someone, what do you do? What do you say?
I truly want to be. I am more interested in what other people do than what I do. Now, the reptilian brain of mine side is really kind of figuring out like, hey, is this person a friend or a threat? Not really, but truly trying to find out more about them than letting them know what I do. Because if it's a good conversation, then I would hope they would set up one to the next one,
Right.
Yeah.
But when they ask you what you do, what do you say? What's your response?
I tell them that I'm in the housing industry. While we can pretty much do all the same things that and I tell clients just the same. We all do about 80 to 90% of the same thing.
Right.
So when people are like, oh, well, I do mortgage, hey, that's great. A lot of us do. But ultimately, it's that last 10, 20% that really makes a difference, Jim, to, hey, tell me why you're different or why I need to work with you. And generally, that's where, hey, what are you trying to do? Because, I let people know, I was like, hey, I might not have everything that you need, but I'm really good at knowing who does. So that's where I set myself apart. And sometimes I'll say, hey, I'm a broker of brokers, meaning I probably may not have what you want or need, but I know who does. Or even if it's something that we do have that maybe it's just not the strongest product, I know who's got the best one. And that's generally speaking where I can put them in the best situation that they never knew that they would never know the difference if they're just talking to their local lender.
So you have a lot of different options at hand.
Right.
So you're a broker of brokers.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't realize that was a thing in the mortgage industry.
Yeah. And that's just my own little, title to it because ultimately it's really easy to be like, oh, you should call this guy. And no offense, you just gave somebody homework. If I can actually go, hey, Jim, tell me, what are you trying to do? Hey, Daniel, we're trying to expand this part of one of my other businesses, and I've heard an SBA loan might be what I need. Hey, that's great. And they're like, oh, do you do SBA loans? I was like, I do not. I go, but I actually know who. I got 3 really good guys, 2 local and 1 in Texas. And let me tell you a little bit about them before I even queue up an introduction. And then the biggest thing is making the introduction because it's really easy to, oh yeah, I should invite you or introduce you to this guy. It's another thing when you actually do it.
Right.
And, people, they feel that and they're like, oh man, thanks for you're right. That guy, Tom, he's a hoot, but he gave me what I needed. I'm like, awesome. And what I do, and not to sound like it's all for free, what I do is just remind them. I go, hey, the next time you have anything that has to do with finance or lending or investment, I was like, I would just ask that you would call me and let me, even if it's not something I do, let me be that introduction to somebody who can,
Right.
Yeah.
What do you find to be one of the more common questions these days that people are asking?
Yeah, it's the same one that we get every day. Where are rates? They're moving. Are you? And basically, it's just kind of like, hey, and that's the whole thing. Is it's not me being callous. It's the fact that it's like, hey, unless you're actively looking in the market, or unless you're getting ready to put an offer in on something, and even then, you could literally, you could wait 2 to 4 weeks before you even had a lock a loan. So the market moves. It used to be bond market was boring and predictable. I could look at a rate sheet on a Tuesday and on a Thursday. It pretty much, if it did change, you couldn't tell unless you look at the progress from Tuesday to Thursday. Now it's one of those things where like, hey, we've got some activity in the market. It's looking good. I think that it would be good for us to lock in now, but I still always give them, it's their button to push. And here's why I think that right now might be a better time to go ahead and lock your loan now, opposed to a week from now, 2 weeks from now. So it's a moving target.
Every great podcast starts with an idea, but turning that idea into a professional show, that's where we come in. At it'syourshow.co, we specialize in the highest quality podcast production and short-form video content. Record your show in our fully equipped studio, or if you need us to come to you, we'll bring the studio experience wherever you are. We could even help you build your own. With it'syourshow.co, you're working with an award-winning team who's been creating content pretty much since 1997. So whether you're a business, creator, entrepreneur, or storyteller, we make the production process simple so you can focus on what matters most, your show. Take advantage of our summer special and lay out your messaging starting at only $97 an hour. It's your show with our expertise.
Hi, I'm Jason Miller. I'm the owner of Christian Brothers Automotive here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. We fix cars here, both European and domestic, from simple oil changes to complete engine rebuilds and replacements. Most important thing, though, is while you're waiting, we've got the best snack game in town, and we invite you to make yourself at home and get to know us, and we treat you like family. We're located right across the street from Walmart on Highway 31 right here in Spring Hill. Let us know that you heard about us on this ad, and we'll give you 10% off your next oil change. So stop on in and see us in downtown Spring Hill. Do we even have a downtown in Spring Hill?
Now is always a good time. I always hear that.
Yeah.
Mortgage people and real estate people.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it now.
Oh, realtors hate me because like sometimes when, we actually get, it's usually my client that I'm referring to them. Mm-hmm. But every now and again, they're like, hey man, they're like, they've decided to put things on pause. And, what's that about? And I was like, well, they said that their budget was here and then, they were happy here and they're able to manage it here. And then you start showing them houses that were priced up here, right. And, the difference between that short, the long fall really was quite a bit different. And, while I love rice and beans, not everybody else would like rice and beans every single day of the week to not be mortgage poor.
Well, you get a lot of people who, you see it on Facebook a lot. And they'll come into the market and say, well, I'm looking for a home with 5 bedrooms, 3,000 square feet, has to be in Franklin, and we only want to spend about $1,800 a month. And it's like, well, how much you putting down?
Right.
Which in the car business is what we'd call that champagne on a beer budget.
Oh, yeah.
Those type of dreams.
Oh, without a doubt.
And you'd have a lot of people that, and then they could start getting flamed in the comments and stuff like that. But the realism, and it's like, I don't even think you can get that in Tennessee anymore.
No. And if you did, I don't know if you'd want to live there,
right.
And that's it. And, I will say, I put this on our industry is that it's up to us to really educate our buyers and sometimes even our realtors as to, hey, they might have told you what they told you when you guys were doing your discovery, conversation or your, interview, whatever you want to call it. When we actually looked under the hood, it looks a little bit different, and that's okay. It's not terminal. It's just a matter of things have changed a little bit. And once they actually saw what the monthly mortgage price tag looked like versus what they were hoping for, I was like, it's a bit different, and that's okay. Now, are you able to kind of pivot and show them more of what's in their price range? And that's it.
What's the what's the threshold between, okay, this is where you're comfortable and approved in a mortgage, but, hey, you got a little bit of champagne on a, decent IPA budget.
Right.
What's the difference between like, hey, here's the upper part that you're approved on. But the house that you want is about $30,000-$40,000 more. Is that a doable thing? I mean, hey, can you go to the realtor and be like, hey, it might be worth to ask them if they'll come down midway. I might be able to bump a little bit. Right. Does that happen?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question because during my conversation, and it's not just in that initial conversation, it's as a reminder and says, hey, Jim, when we first had our discovery call or, our sit down, what have you, you told me that your ideal payment was at about $2,200 and you said your max payment was at about $2,800. Mm-hmm. How does that still resonate with y'all? Now that's everything all in. That's taxes, insurance, HOA fees, everything that's out the door. That's what's coming out of your bank account. Is that still holding true? Or now that we've actually had a chance to look at all the numbers and now there's also the emotional attachment to that house that you've been looking at. How does that resonate with you now? Mm-hmm. And then, sometimes they're like, well, we had a really long, hard talk and now we can actually probably bump up to like 3,000. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's tippy top though. You're right. So then also just laying that with the realtor as well, just saying, hey, I'm not, I don't want to be you, like I have faith in you to do what you're supposed to do. But this is where their head's really at. I was like, I just want to kind of arm you with that so that if they want to go look at a house that's way out of their budget, you can go, well, you put it on me. I was like, hey, Daniel had said that you guys were comfortable at this. And then that was kind of like your, this was your tippy top. And this is definitely out of the tippy top. They're like, no, you're right. You're right. That's why we hired you. And that's it.
It's funny when we first bought our house in Vegas. I don't know if I told you this story. But the real estate agent who we loved, when we started seriously looking, we did the pre-qual and all that stuff. She showed us all the, quote, used houses that we could afford. And both Courtney and I were like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
This is putting us in like, the barrio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I guess because of new construction, it was almost similar to the car business. The used cars were, they were a better deal, but you never knew what you were buying, and if it was in warranty and stuff like that. The new cars always came with all the dealer incentives and manufacturer incentives and all those things.
Right.
Similar with new home construction. So that was our first home, because all of a sudden she's like, well, here's what you're actually qualified for if you were to buy, quote, used. But let's go look at these new homes that I picked out and blah, blah, blah. And she showed us like a middle of the road home, and I'm going, oh, this is much better. If we could do this. She's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did we start here before?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I appreciate the fact that she actually gave you the runway to sit there and go, hey, you know what? I don't want to be pigeonholed or pushed into just looking at new construction, what have you, or whatever it might be, or even entertaining a different neighborhood. And honestly, Jim, like now, me and my team, we focus more so on new construction. Like I said, barn dominiums, barn doors, even modular builds. Jim, some of these modular builds, they're crazy. Yeah. They're like 4,000 square feet. And unless somebody told you what to look for versus, now, not to be confused with manufactured, modular is in its class by itself. It's still a stick-built home. It's just built off-site, and then it's brought in and seamed together, and it's on a permanent foundation. Same thing with the barn dominiums and the barn doors. A lot of it's prefabbed, not all of it, but a lot of it on the barn doors and barn dominiums. The trusses, what have you, and they bring them in. It's amazing. But the whole thing is that there's been about 6 or 7 times in the last, I don't know, let's call it not even a full 3 years, 30 months, that it's actually been more affordable to buy brand new or have one built than it was to buy an existing, because just call for what it is. The homeowners that are selling now, they need to get every dime that they can out of the home, because that lets them level up or get to the next stop, right?
Yeah.
So with a new construction, the builder's like, I'll build it for this. And, after the land and all the other things that go into building a new build, they're like, this is actually, if I'm right, this is actually more affordable than me buying, that same amount that's existing. That's about right. Not everybody wants to wait though, right? Some people, there's like, I got to go now, and other times it's like, no, we got some time. We can figure it out.
Well, and that's the thing, is that one of the models, especially with the middle class and now the upcoming generation, wondering how they're going to buy a house or live near their family. One of the solutions that I've been kind of toying around with was like what you're talking about, building a barn.
Yep.
And like, it's almost like the single guy, or dare I say the divorced dad, new solution. Instead of renting the apartment, find a couple acres, cheap.
Yep.
Put a barn on it and put a fifth wheel inside of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those things are nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's protected.
Some of these builds, especially on the, and I think the misconception is everyone, they think that like, oh, like, I don't want to live in a barn. It's like, well, the outside, and some of them, these are
nice.
really sharp. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of amazing builders throughout Middle Tennessee that everybody's familiar with. And, while they might be considered more medium to large builders, is that even the small to medium builders, those guys, they put amazing work out. And
a 2,500 square foot barn, it's $50,000.
Yeah.
It's not with a pad.
Yeah.
All you do is run electric, water and sewer to it.
Yeah, and a lot of them are sometimes better insulated than what you can get out of like the cookie cutter homes. You know, if you got a custom builder, you got a custom builder, you know, and some of them, they just put the label in a custom builder, and I'm not knocking, you know, anybody. It's just the fact that across the nation, this isn't, you know, taking Middle Tennessee out of the equation, just across the nation, there are, you know, some builders that, yeah, man, they're not wanting to be the large, you know, builder. They're very happy where they're at, and they're doing very well.
But that's the thing is that, you know, we bought a property a couple of years back, just shy of 5. It was 10 acres.
Yep.
We still have, we're trying to sell it. About 10 and a half acres, has a creek running through it. That's a big piece of property. You know, you don't need to go that big.
Right.
But I would imagine that 1 or 2 acres around here, was that going for about 200, 250, something like that?
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, $50,000, maybe once all said and done, electric and everything. Electric, you're not looking, you can literally have a service panel put in, and you just need to plug in a fifth wheel.
Right.
And then water, all those things. You just need a spigot to plug it in.
Right.
All those things can be built off of later down the road, you know, but at least you have a decent place to live. Fifth wheel goes for maybe, I don't know, 80 grand.
Right.
A decent
For
one.
a nice one. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
you're probably about 350 at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because we've had a lot of customers over the years that they've done just that. Which is ironic, because there are some people that are, you know, and from outside looking in, they're like, oh, this person's out of their element. I was like, you know what? I was like, you don't give people, you know, overall enough credit, because sometimes when you're put into a situation, you're either going to sink or swim, right? So some of these folks that, you know, come from states all around the nation, that they come from the suburbs, or they even come from the city, and now they're living in a fifth wheel while their house is being built,
right.
Or, you know, they're even living in a small ADU that has power, electric, water going to it. You know what I'm saying? And they're perfectly fine. You know, they adapt very quickly, and which I think is awesome. You know,
What can they do? I guess, can you put a mortgage up against something like that? I mean, it's a depreciating asset.
on the ADU or the fifth wheel?
Fifth wheel.
No, so you know, the fifth wheel is going to be like your personal, right? But the whole thing is, it's like, you know, if you do,
You can finance them over 15 years anyway.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know,
So you basically take out a loan with the dealership.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the barn you could put in a mortgage.
Right.
With the land, and then there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, and one thing that, you know, and it's not just if you're working with me, if you're working with anybody, you know, little pro tip, if you have the opportunity to buy the land before you actually go to try to do it all at once, find where you want to live first, buy the land, and then over, whether it's months or years, then, you know, little by little, and especially if you already own a home and you've got a place, but you want to maybe relocate to Lawrenceburg, Lewisburg, Culleoka, wherever it is that you want to push out further past the suburban sprawl, then buy the land, because the land can actually, you know, not just us, but there's a lot of great lenders out there that will allow you to use the equity in that land as your down payment toward the construction loan, the one-time close, the two-time close. So, you know, do yourself a favor, instead of going, well, we're not ready to build yet, but I love that piece of land. Buy that piece of land.
You doing commercial too?
Yeah. We, once again, you know, like some of the stuff that, you know, like, hey, I could do this commercial loan for you, but I know somebody who's going to give you, knock your socks off, and here's how they help you. And I know this from experience, because I send a lot of my clients, especially on the commercial side, to them. And that's it, man. You know, like without, you know, me trying to remember everything about what my referral partner does really well, I give them the bullet points, and I go, hey, and it's no skin off my back if all of a sudden you decide to go in a different route, but I know that he's always taking care of my people. So,
Do you think the general public is distrusting of people in the real estate business?
you know, I think that, you know, with the introduction of like chat and everything else, people, they're finding a lot more answers if they're asking in the right way. So really, at the end of the day, if it's a trust thing, that's really on them, because there are some people out there that honestly, I mean, heck, I still count my money when I get it out the ATM. But at the end of the day, like there are people who are always just going to have that in them. And, you know, and I'm not knocking those people. They probably have good reason to be on guard. You know, you get burned a couple times and it teaches you, you know.
This whole construction process we've been through, because we were going to move our business into that property. And we wanted to build a commercial building at first, but it was a little too rich for our blood.
Right.
And then we decided to build a house and we could move into the house and do what we do here, but own the property. But it's probably better for us to just flip it and keep on moving forward that way. Right. So it's one of those things that it's kind of like, all right, you know, that's interesting. But the experience was eye-opening. Like a lot of the stuff that we did, we wouldn't do again. Right. You know, especially, I mean, the banker's just been, he's only communicative when, you know, you got to pay him. You know, hey, you're need to make your payment.
Yeah.
And, you know, you try and solve problems and, well, I'm, you know, we have this week we're out. Okay. What, for what? You know,
right.
Groundhog Foot Day.
Yeah.
You know, you take the entire week off.
Right.
I mean, that's literally some of the, well, not that particular instance, but it's been one of those things where it's like, dude, I would never hire you again. This is awful.
Jim, honestly, and this is to the ones who have been in this game for a long time, or have, you know, they really have built their business in the housing industry. But here's the thing. It's not just the housing industry. This should equate to any industry. Communication is key. Yeah. And that's it, man. Like, even if you got nothing to say, hey, I was just calling to let you know that everything's all good to go. I'm like, oh, is everything all right? It's like, yeah, actually, nothing's really changed, but I just wanted to check in with you. How is everything? Are you all right? And sometimes you'll find out something that actually helps you do your job better. Like, yeah, because you know what? We really got to kind of get this build done, or really need this to close quickly because I got my mother-in-law coming. You know, she's coming quickly. You know, she's coming to live with us. I was like, okay, good to know. Mm-hmm. So they're already under stress, right? Dealing with that you didn't know about. And just those little things, man, if you'll listen more than you're talking, you'll pick up on a lot more stuff.
Especially on the front end. Yeah. Because apparently there's this program that they use called Built.
Yep.
You're aware of it?
Yep.
It's a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay. We went into it saying, okay, if we provide the upfront cost for materials, we buy flooring, we buy electrical, all the different things, we just submit a receipt and we get reimbursed. Oh, yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the inspector would come by. Well, it's not installed yet. Well, that's not what was told to us.
Right.
Here's a receipt. We bought it. The product's right there.
Right.
I understand why you're doing this, that people in the past have made it harder for people like us because they get a construction loan and all of a sudden they're buying brand new trucks.
Right.
I get it. But dude,
yeah,
our guy said that once we show you a receipt, we should well, it's got to be installed first. Okay, so we got to come out of pocket even more?
Yeah.
What do we need you for?
Right.
What do we do? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
It was that aggravating.
Yeah.
And it's almost like to the point where they strategically do it so they have their boot on your neck.
Right.
That's what I feel like.
Yeah. You're beholden to them, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not Terminator 2-esque about AI and technology and what have you. But like, here's the thing. Use it as a tool, but don't let that be the only voice for your company or your team or your group, especially to your client. Oh, you should have got an automated email. I was like, you know what? I was like, hey, just so you know, you're about to get some automated emails. I go, but that doesn't mean that that's our only source of communication. Please, by all means, you call or text me if you have any questions. And that's it. And every time that I end the call with that, they're very appreciative. But that's the whole thing. You know, good news, great. Mm-hmm. Bad news needs to travel quicker. And it's like, hey, we hit a little bit of a wrinkle. Here's what happened. The appraisal came in low, or hey, heard that, you know, there's a couple subject to items on your appraisal, or whatever it might be. You need to, you know, figure out a plan on what is possible on our end, you know, and then you need to communicate that, hey, this came up, but we're already doing these things to try to get over it. Okay. Yeah. And that's it. I think that too many people, they turtle up, right? And they just go, oh, man, they're going to be so pissed. I was like, how pissed do you think they're going to be if you sit on this for 3 days, 3 weeks? I've heard some horror stories. And I was like, I can't get the guy back on the line.
Yeah.
You know, we're supposed to close in a week and I haven't heard anything. I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's sad.
So they're getting,
Yeah.
they're living their best life.
Yeah. And back to the, I agree with you on the fact that like people are like, oh, well, it's Cab Spats Day, so we're taking a half day. I was like, well, you know what? I don't know about most other salespeople, no matter what you sell, but you're never really off. Mm-hmm. And that's it. It's like, if all of a sudden you're in line and somebody has a question about what your craft is, I was like, take the moment. You might have just made a sale. So
now, how long have you been doing this?
Oh man, almost a decade.
Almost a decade.
Yeah.
So starting out in a decade, when somebody begins, what's a realistic expectation? How many deals in the first year?
It's really on you, man. And
oh, sure it is.
Yeah,
it's typical.
Yeah, I'd say if you can, it's starting out, if you can at least get a couple under your belt a month, you're doing okay. But if you can get a handful a month, I think you would be all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you just got to keep that. And the biggest thing is, and I had a hard time with this in the beginning. I'm just being honest. Track everything. Track how many calls you made, track how many people you reached out to, who you got a hold of. And then the people who even showed a little bit of interest, you need to circle back with them. And even the ones that, hey, you know what, we're not in a position to buy, then you just put them into a drip campaign. And because you never know, like if you'll take care of them, like the ones who are the big deals to you, and you treat everybody the same, like everybody's a big deal, then they'll feel that. And all of a sudden, the guy who's got the 550 credit score, his brother-in-law has an 800, and he's moving here from Texas, and he needs to buy land and a home.
What is the what's like a typical amount of deals per month? Like, what are you doing?
Well, ours is our team. We do, and I guess it's a little bit easier to go, I guess, off a dollar amount. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think last month we closed around 8 million, and but because of the loan amounts, it fluctuates, right? I could do a 400,000, smaller modular build, and then same type of modular build, but it's sitting on 40 acres, and now that deal is now double almost. Maybe it's like 900,000, and then on the barndominiums, it's the same thing. Like when you start factoring the house, sure, that's easy to go like we're going to build for this much, but the land, you incorporate that in as well. That's an extra wrinkle. But back in the day, like I would say, I was shooting for a handful of deals, and if you could at least make that your baseline and, hey, we're going to close a handful of deals every single month, then you'll do well, and you need to just keep doubling that,
You mentioned making calls and stuff like that. I mean, are you depending on real estate agents to bring you business? Because it's what a lot of mortgage people do.
Yeah,
but going in the direct route to the end user is kind of unconventional. So do you make cold calls? And if you do, what does that sound like? What kind of a cold call is that?
So, and this is probably going to be unpopular opinion, but I'm not a cold caller. And here's the thing: I've got any one of you. If you'll scroll to the very bottom of your, at least on iPhone users, sorry, Android. But if you scroll to the bottom of your contact list, it'll tell you how many contacts are in your phone. And most of us are sitting at least a couple hundred people that are in your phone. And here's the thing. You don't need to call them up and go, hey, you're looking to buy a house anytime soon, looking to refinance, or looking for some land. If you'll just sit there and remind them what you do, it's everything, Every time I think about podcasts, my friend Jim McCarthy, voiceover work, my friend Jim McCarthy. You want to make a podcast? Jim McCarthy.
Right. It's
that top of mind that every time I hear your voice, or I hear a voice that's even remotely near your voice, I'm like, Jim, and that's it. I had the pleasure and opportunity to, it would never fill the shoes at your BNI group, but the fact that I was there on your behalf, it was like I was a celebrity. It was the fact that I'm like, you're here for Jim? Awesome. All right, cool. I was like, yeah. I was like, it's good. I'm the Hispanic version. It's good. But it's good. Ultimately, and the whole thing is that back to the cold calling, I don't knock it. It's just I'm not. And I don't even get upset when people cold call me, which is funny. You think I'd be like, lose my number, and I'm just kind of like, hey man, I get it. You're just trying to make a sale. I was like, I'm really. I'm not quite to the AARP age, but thank you for calling early.
That seems to be getting earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
So
that's it, man.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, but just if you'll just let people know what you do and what you do really well, it all kind of takes care of itself.
Well, I'm not really in a commoditized industry. This is a specialized industry. So it's almost like if you work in the music business, someone asks you, "Hey, what do you do?" And you go, "I'm in the music business." That alone, it leads to another. Oh, really? What do you do?
Yeah.
So those people who are in the music business have that luxury. When you're in a commoditized industry, like what we talked about earlier, you got to come out of the gate like, I help people fund their, dream homes or whatever.
Right.
And I believe that everybody should have a reasonable way to reasonably pay for the domicile where they live or whatever you say.
Yeah.
It's tough to say, well, I do it with integrity or I do it honestly. It's like I've been on this really big kick lately with people who call themselves leaders. Mm-hmm. Like, well, I'm a leader. Well, I don't think you can really say that about yourself.
Right.
Other people, we're the number one whatever band in the country. According to who? I mean, it goes back to my radio day. We're the number one radio station. Yeah, according to Women 3554 in this particular time slot. But okay, it's all these claims where you got to be able to validate the magnitude of the claim.
Right.
And it's like, I'm going on a tangent here. This is what we do.
No, I feel this though.
Yeah.
Please, I want to listen.
My daughter this morning was asking me at school, or she was telling me at school that they were going through who's a good and bad leader throughout history and stuff like that. And I said, did they define what that means? She goes, yeah, we had to define what we thought it meant. And I said, do you want to know what I mean? I think. She goes, yeah, of course. So I said, listen, a good leader or a bad leader is someone who says go. And they're sitting there like they're cracking the whip, so to speak. Right. A good leader is someone who's saying, let's go. And they're with you.
That's
okay. A good leader is going to have people who will take a bullet for him. A bad leader is going to be one who gets killed in friendly fire.
Yeah.
And I learned that in the car business. I learned it in the radio.
Yeah.
I said, I had a boss in radio the first go around who was great. He was a mentor. The guy who followed him was kind of like, eh.
Right.
So I went to Vegas. Guy who hired me was a great leader, very inspiring. I still talk to him today.
Yeah. The
guy that followed him basically said, y'all are here to make me look good. And I'm like, the hell we are.
Right.
And I was gone within a year or so.
Yep.
And then I got hired here. And I've had really good leaders where I worked here and didn't have that juxtaposition. Got into the car business, worked for Steve Brink over at Crest Honda. And he was a great leader, but he was one of those guys that, he would come in and start with the detail guys and the porters. Hey, how you guys? Shake their hands, look in their eyes, making sure they feel valued.
Yep.
And he worked through the service department and all through the sales floor and the F&I people and get to his office. And I mean, dude, the freaking place could be burning down.
Yeah.
And he would come out of the office with a big old smile on his face. He's just like, I have to shield you guys from the crap.
That's it.
Okay, that I have to deal with.
Yep.
And I don't get to take that out on you. He was a great leader.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something he proclaimed about himself. That was a mantle given to him by the people who followed him.
That's right.
Okay. It drives me nuts. Well, as leaders, you see it on LinkedIn all the time.
Right.
Okay, who made you a leader?
Right.
I'm
a leader in my industry. I was like, are you? I was
really?
like, you know what? Because,
says?
When you start talking about metrics and what have you, and once again, it's like, it's up to each person's discretion. But I agree with you on the fact that it's like a true leader really is not proclaiming that of themselves. They're sitting there, they're leading by example.
Right.
And they're saying, hey, I love the fact that, the detail guys and the porters is like, hey, it's not just, hey, I want to make sure that everyone knows I'm friendly with them. It's like, no, it's like, you have value. You have value.
I'm acknowledging you.
Yeah. Hey, I need the janitor to do their job because if our lobby looks like crap, nobody wants to sit here and wait while their car is getting repaired, and it's those little details like that. And I'm horrible at quotes, but it basically, I forget who even asked the dude, but basically somebody asked a janitor at NASA and goes, hey, what do you do here? He's like, oh, we're working to put a man on the moon. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's amazing. You know what I'm saying? And clearly that was, back in the day before they actually put that man on the moon. But the whole thing is like, dude, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, there are no small roles in most companies. And this trickles down to, it should really start with our family because, I told my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old often, I go, check it out. I was like, you're not just our kids. You're not just, a young kid here at the house. I was like, you're part of this team. I was like, without you, I can't, this household doesn't function. I need you to take the dog out. I need you to take the trash out. I need me to do all the things that your mom asked me to. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like we all have a role here. Yeah. And, nobody is more important than the other person. And that means double for you guys because I need you guys to understand how important it is that you do what's asked of you so that we can do what's asked of us,
It's funny. You ever been to a Buc-ee's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The signaling that they do is so interesting. I have this whole thing that I talk about called signaling. At any given time, we're signaling to other people, verbally or non-verbally.
Yeah.
And it's a marketing thing as well. It goes back to the when ID theft was really at an all-time high. There was a company whose name I can't remember, which disproves my point. But either way, they had an ad and a campaign that the owner of the company put his own social security number in the ads, on the sides of billboards, on the sides of box trucks, driving around cities. Right. That was how much he believed in his product and service. Oh. That go ahead and do what you need to do. Right. And I think two people might have tried to steal his identity and they were successful, but that was it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but him going out on that limb signaled, this is how much confidence I have in this.
Right.
Yeah. Even I got a couple of black eyes because of it, but was quickly fixed and rectified. That's what you're buying into.
That's it.
So that's signaling. So you go to Buc-ee's. What do they have on the sidewalk? Little sign. You know that sign I'm talking about? Hey, this is what our positions pay.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go in there, you have a good experience.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're hiring the cream of the crop.
That's it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
People coming out of the woodwork to the new Murfreesboro location.
Yeah.
They're going to be covered up.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
In and out, same thing.
Yeah. If you'll take care of your people, and honestly, the team that I'm with now, Bell Bank Mortgage, the motto is happy employees, happy customers. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right because, I haven't talked to a single person that's kind of like, it's all right. They're like, no, this place, and some of these guys are like myself. They've been in the industry for years and, we've bounced around and it happens. But ultimately at the end of the day, they're like, nope. So I was like, all right, so how many years have you been here now? And some of them, they're like 5 years, 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, 15 years. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But it really is that thing. It's like, hey, someone who feels valued will do more than someone who does not, and that goes right back to the family unit. And, if you'll take stock in your spouse and hey, you humble yourself and you go, I couldn't do this without you. I know I couldn't do this without you, and that's just me personally speaking. But to a lot of us, even to your kids, I was like, hey man, if you didn't do what I needed you to do, my life would be a lot harder. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then especially when it comes to employees, it's like, I used to shy away from this maybe 25, 26 years ago. And I stopped that and I was working in a nightclub, which is bananas to begin with. Yeah. But it was even in that, kind of crazy atmosphere. We had porters and we had barbacks. So it was porters, barbacks, bartenders, right? Mm-hmm. And, the porters and the barbacks, it was always please and thank you. And I saw that some of the other bartenders wouldn't exactly reciprocate that same type of gesture. Mm-hmm. And I would and we would be all buddy. And I go, hey man, I was like, this dude makes a third of what we make. Mm-hmm. If you would just give him the common respect that they deserve to begin with, I go, I promise you that your ice would never go low. That's why you're always complaining, right? Because your ice is going low. And they're like, yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, it's because you're you're kind of a punk to him. And I was like, so, like you show him a little bit of respect and I promise you things will improve. Now, on the flip side, I'd also be like, hey man, I get it. This guy's kind of a tool, but if you'll give him the same type of attention that you give me, I think that there could be some extra money in it. And, whatever that motivation is, but then both sides start coming up and I was like, hey, look at this. Like we're almost always get along. You know what I'm saying?
It goes back to like what we talked about earlier, communication.
Yeah.
Biggest crux of any business is lack of communication or not enough. And it's, you see it everywhere, like what you're talking about.
Yep.
Communicating, even if you're a bar back, if you're a low man on the totem pole and you don't like the way someone's treating you, then tactfully speak up.
There you go.
And let them know. Be like, hey, man, I did this in the car. I've told this story numerous times. Had a guy in the car business who basically postured to me, condescended to me, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I completely get it. And at that time, I was 37. You deal with a lot of new people. There's a revolving door.
Right.
People, you're trying to discern who sees this as a career versus a job. Right now I'm here because this has got to be a career. I've got a family, I've got a house, the insurance, all that stuff. I got a lot in the line.
Right.
Okay. I appreciate you taking your time out and having the patience to show me how to do this. But then I got up on my fist on my hands and said, but if you ever talk to me like that again, we're going to have problems.
That's it.
I am not 22 years old. I'm not wet behind the ears. I've had a couple of laps around the sun.
Right.
I said, just take stock in that and I'll show you that I'm a decent person to pour into.
That's right.
Does that make sense? And he was like, one of these, and leaning back in his chair, and we were great after that.
Yeah.
And I had to do that with somebody else in the dealership, and we were great after that as well.
That's it.
It's like, dude, you don't need to freaking talk people down.
No.
And especially in a business like a car dealership where they can just bounce and go up the street. I never understood the militaristic boot camp-esque way of training people, like
Right.
public embarrassment, dressing them down.
Yeah.
Dude, they don't have to stick around.
No.
And all you're doing as a manager is shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
Because you got to hire again, train them. There's a lot of energy and effort and money that goes into that.
Right.
Just treat them like a human being.
Yeah. And the other part to that too is now you're starting to become known for being demeaning or
Right.
what have you, as to where, like, honestly, the brokers that I was with prior to Thrive, they're amazing, man. And that's the whole thing. It's like, hey, if there was ever anything that needed to be addressed, was the fact that it's like, hey guys, check it out. We've seen a theme and we want to get ahead of it. And here's what's happening. Here's the issue with it. And here's what we propose, how we're going to fix it. What are your thoughts? Right. Mm-hmm. And at least they made an open forum, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's their brokerage. They could be like, well, I think we've taken that into consideration and we're still going to do it the way that we're saying, but that wasn't it. It was a matter of going, hey, just like any other family, your work family, there's not always just going to be sunshine, or even the fact that,
of course,
you can't just stay in your lane and they stay in their lane and hopefully you guys never see each other in the break room. No, why don't you get uncomfortable? And that's been my word for this year has been uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable. Do the thing that you loathe or that you're scared of or fearful or you think that you're not good at. Do the thing and then still be bad at it, but do it.
Yeah.
And don't let it whoop you, and just be like, what? I'm going to continue to do this bad, but I'm not going to not do it, So when it comes to communication and relationships, that's the other thing too.
Get great at what you hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually, I tell my kids that all the time. It's like, well, I really don't like it. Well, whether you don't like it, it still needs to be done.
Yeah.
Go do it.
That's it.
And a lobster only grows when it gets uncomfortable in its shell.
Yeah. Break that shell off.
They talk about American homeownership being, quote, the American dream.
Right.
And that was a concept developed by the real estate industry.
Right.
Or maybe hijacked, if you will.
Yeah.
Is it still alive for a 25-year-old?
It is. And, here's one thing that I will say, and, clearly, once again, maybe unpopular opinion is the fact that it's like, it's always a great time to buy. It's like, That's not true for everybody, you know, and sometimes it's a matter of timing for that person. It's not about the market. The market's going to do what the market's going to do, but it's ultimately is it your time to buy? And that's the more honest way of approaching it, of just going, hey, you know, it still really is one of the best ways to build wealth. There still really is, you know, a way to set things up for not just your family, but families to come. But you got to do it thoughtfully, and you can't jump in half baked and not know what lies ahead, right? You know, because some people, especially people on my side of the equation, they only get you to the closing table, and then they're like, "All right, good luck." Right. And you know, my thing is like, "Hey, let's really think thoughtfully for down the road, not just this transaction, but what does this set you up to do?" You know, and you know. With that being said, it's still very much alive. It just looks different now. You know, I think the one thing that if I can ruffle anybody's feathers, or at least maybe hit them with a loving hammer, is the fact that it's like, hey, if it's your first house, it really shouldn't be your dream house. Because here's the one thing: if you jump in, and it's not just about cost, but if you get everything that you wanted on that first go round, you won't appreciate the actual dream house. And, you know, hey, start with a starter house, almost like practice, right? You know, like, there's a reason why that firstborn, you know, like, that firstborn kid, you know, they get away with a little bit more. It's because they had more things happen to them because you as a new parent didn't know what you're doing, right? With a house, that's your first baby of a house. It's like, hey, things are going to go wrong. So why not it be a little bit more affordable? And then, hey, you know what? Now that the plumbing has shot through the ceiling, and we need to replace all this and do drywall anyways, I was like, now we get to paint. Great, you know.
So, good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So on that same wavelength, somebody who is in their mid-20s or something like that, maybe 2 or 3 years away from making a decision,
right?
What do they need to be doing now?
Oh man, study
to
up,
prepare.
Yeah, study up on your credit. First thing, study up on your credit.
Give us a crash course real quick on credit. What does it mean?
Yeah, really good. So I'll give you 3 tips. Number 1, free annualcreditreport.com. You get a copy of each one of the Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax credit reports. Review it, see what's on there, you know, and ultimately, if you don't have any credit, then unpopular opinion maybe, but, you know, take out a small gas card, or take out, you know, if they're sending you something for a secured, Visa, whatever, you don't have to run it up. Literally, guys, you could spend $5 a month on this credit card, and then you wait until the statement comes out. As soon as the statement comes out, pay it off and just keep building credit. Second tip is boost.com or experianboost.com. I don't know who doesn't, but maybe there are some people out there that don't have a streaming service. But if you have any streaming services, if you'll tie your account to that streaming service, you'll actually get positive points towards your credit score every month. So it's passively giving you, and you can tie your major
utilities.
Your utilities, your cell phone, your insurance. You tie all this into that, and then the third would be, be mindful of just. The biggest thing is 30-day lates. You could be a couple weeks late, but don't be 30-day late, and those are the biggest things. And I tell people, the only thing about credit that you need to remember, it's a time game as to where, if you do have something bad happen in your credit, it's only a matter of time before it gets better. And you just need to keep monitoring it. Don't pay to monitor it, because you can do it yourself, You want
to have a fat file.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole breakdown of the credit score. Rondi Lambeth, who's a guy out of Vegas, he had him on the podcast years ago. And we talked about he did a really great breakdown of what the credit score really means. Like an 840 is just like all the different points of a credit score is your likelihood of paying something back percentage wise. There's an 84% chance on an 840 score that you're going to pay it back. Right. And the lower it goes, I just think of it that way.
Yeah. And, with that being said, the one thing that I always let people know, I go, hey, all finance all finance, whether it's cars, homes, credit cards, mattresses, doesn't matter. Finance is just a measure of mitigated risk. How much of a risk are you to let me lend you this line of credit? How much of a risk are you for you to pay back this mortgage? And that's all it is, guys. Don't take it personal. Yeah. They don't look at you as a human being. They look at you in black and white on a piece of paper. Right. So if you'll, and I know it's hard because finances and credit are emotional, but if you'll remember that finance is not personal, it's just mitigated risk.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, giving out information in all sorts of capacities, especially in the real estate industry, leadership, like we've been talking about. Yeah. What's some mortgage advice that you've come across that absolutely drives you bonkers? Be specific. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, when people are like, "Hey, rates have gotten better, you should refinance." It's like, no. I was like, if it makes sense for you, sure. And here's what happens: everybody gets marketed to. We all do, and some of it, it just hits at the right time. It's like, oh man, I was kind of thinking about this debt consolidation thing, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, meaning HELOCs, HELoans, closed-end seconds, what have you. But the whole thing is like, if your rate drops, let's say that you were at 6% and the rate environment drops, and now your rate technically would be 5.875, right? Heck, let's go 5.5, right? So now rates are at 5.5. Is that 0.5% really worth it to refinance? It's not, and not usually. Now, if you got if you just need this much of relief right now to kind of get you through this season of life that might last a few years, maybe. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and that's my whole thing, is like, even when I was with my first lender, big shout out to Kevin Watson, when I was with Churchill Mortgage, was the fact that, sometimes they would, hey, they keep saying I need to refinance. I'm like, no, man. I was like, we ran the numbers and you're saving $17 a month. It's going to cost you $5,000 to refinance. Right. Does that make sense? And here's your break even point. And they're like, oh, it's that far out. Well, the other guy said that, it would be this. I'm like, sure. I was like, you could pay for points. Let me show you how much longer it take you to break even on that. And that's it, is that, it's always a good time to refinance. It's like, that's not true. And the other thing is, back to what we're talking about, it's always a good time to buy. It is, but not for everybody. And there's always good deals to be had. That doesn't mean that that's your deal. And ultimately, I've seen the same thing with houses. People, they're ready to go. They got their pre-approval. They're ready to go. And their first house, the inspection doesn't pass, or, like they can't come to terms with the sellers, what have you. And I get it. It's a natural reaction. It's emotional, right? And they're like, oh man, I really love this house. I was like, wasn't your house. And they're like, what? I was like, trust me, I've been doing this long enough. Trust me that your house hasn't shown itself yet. And some people, it took years, like 2 years before they found the one. And then they found the one. Yeah. So that's it. And it's like, and I get it, in our immediate society of like, everything is right now, right? Oh, ding, ding, that's hard for us to take a moment and temper ourselves. But if you will have patience, your house is out there.
Here's the thing also, I was thinking things a way to spur the market. The property tax argument, because one of the things I've been, we talk about the American dream, home ownership, and I'm like, you never really own your home. As long as there's property taxes, you don't own anything.
Right.
That, I love the fact that the property tax elimination conversation has gotten traction. Now you're seeing DeSantis in Florida. Yeah. They've got, both sides of, the House basically agreeing to move this forward. I really hope it sets a precedent because, man, talk about spurring the economy.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people were wondering, well, what do you replace the property tax with? And I'm like, guys, get rid of the income tax, get rid of the property tax, make it a sales tax.
Yep.
You agree?
Yep. I absolutely agree with that. And, when people are like, oh, well, roads and schools, I was like, what if you don't drive, and what if your kids don't go to school? I was like, so, and I'm not saying, hey, I get it. But ultimately there's other ways, man, and
I just think, I'm not saying there shouldn't be any taxes. I'm just saying that the method the methodology, my income should be none you.
Right.
It should be none of your business.
Right.
Okay. My property value on unrealized gains and being taxed on unrealized gains should be freaking none you.
Right.
Get out of my pocket.
That's it.
Okay. If I go to buy something, I understand how much tax I'm going to pay.
Right.
Yeah, sure. It's probably going to be a lot more expensive than I'm paying now. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yep.
The whole notion of you being, well, you need to justify to us what you wrote off and how much. Screw you.
Right.
Screw you.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a big windfall. Yeah, that's great. It's mine.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was in partnership with you. Get the hell out of my pocket.
Right. And that's the whole thing. I work with a lot of self-employed individuals and owners of their own company. And my thing with that is it's really, there's 2 times when it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Income tax time and when you're trying to qualify for a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is like now the non-QM market has done amazing things, but it still comes at a cost. It's, you can have a bank statement loan, you can have a P&L statement loan, you can have an asset depletion loan, but all those rates are definitely going to be higher than what you're traditionally used to.
Mm-hmm.
So there are routes forward, and I just let folks know, I go, hey, it definitely comes at a cost. It's a higher rate, but it allows us to move forward. What's more important to you? The fact that you're more, and because clearly affordability should be number one. The fact that your payment goes up by X, or the fact that we'll have to wait another year until you can show on your taxes that like you didn't write everything off,
right.
And that's it. And once again, we're guys call for what it is. We're working off an antiquated system. The mortgage system first, probably income tax next, right? Income
tax, what is it, 80,000 pages?
Yeah. It's crazy.
I'm not even sure the IRS can make heads or tails of it.
No.
No. That's the thing is that why wouldn't the real estate industry start getting behind things like the fair tax,
right?
Property tax elimination. No. Okay, start with primary residences. That's fine.
Right.
Okay. And then let's go from there.
Yep.
Is there some sort of movement? Is anybody in that industry even saying, okay, maybe this is something we need to lobby and rally for?
Right.
Is anybody having that conversation?
Maybe
you need to start having that conversation.
No, seriously, because here's the thing that even with the new road, I forget the actual, forgive me, but the new act, for housing is that, one of the key differences between a modular and a manufacturer. Modular, stick built, and manufactured is recognized by HUD, right? Mm-hmm. So it's got tags on it, like it's an RV. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not knocking on manufactured. There's some amazing builds out there for manufactured, but it's stuff like that to where now they're going to be making manufactured deemed more like a stick built, right? Because it's very similar to modular. It's built off site, and the difference is that it's brought in on a trailer. It's like, all right, so if we don't have it on a trailer anymore, and you bring it in on a flatbed more like you do on a modular, it's those little key things that we could have been doing this a decade ago, and affordability wouldn't be as much of a problem as it is now.
Really?
So, and forgive me, once again, unpopular opinion, but even the worst thing, something good comes out of. So COVID, quarantine, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the whole housing industry overnight had to switch how we did business because of, the fact that we couldn't meet in person. We couldn't sign docs in person. And they started coming out with so many different programs. And, 5-6 years later, we are doing well with it, right? And they've been wanting to do this for decades as well. But now we're doing it successfully. And that's the whole thing. It's like, if we're able to do that, why can't we look more thoughtfully for other stuff like taxes,
right?
Homeowners insurance, stuff like that. So I do feel like we're living in one of the most progressive times when it comes to stuff like that, which people would be like, it'll take years before that happens. It's like, you know what?
We got to get it going. Let's start now then.
That's it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I mean, yeah. What do you have planned for yourself? Where do you want to be? Well, actually, let me ask you this. In Middle Tennessee,
right.
Money not an object. Where are you going?
What's
the next upcoming community, you think?
Next up, Fairview's been blowing up, really has. And then
It's the last vestige of Williamson County.
Yeah, which is ironic, and then even we've for the nature of all the builders that we work with, what have you, I've really taken a shine to Lawrenceburg and even Summertown and even Linden, and it's just one of those things to where, like, it wasn't too long ago, Jim, that Spring Hill and Columbia used to be these sleepy little towns too, and now look, we're busting at the seams. Yeah. So I would push out to them, and basically better to get in early and then just watch everything being built up around you.
Interesting. So 5-10 years, that's where you're going to be, you think?
I think so. And I'm by the way, guys, just to tell the whole story, I barely got over an acre, and I loathe the mowing my lawn. So when people are like, "Oh, you're gonna get like a bunch of acreage," I'm like, "No." I was like, if anything, I was like, I'll probably just stick it to like 2 acres, and then I'll have a little ADU for my mother-in-law and a little ADU for my mom. And I'm like, just far enough away to where, like, we can draw the blinds and like, we'll see them in the morning.
Right. Very interesting. Well, how do people find and follow you, my friend? Online?
Yeah. You guys can reach out to me at dcruz@bell.bank, or you could reach out to me at 727-418-0424 and let me make your next introduction.
Are you on the socials?
I am. On Instagram, Cruz Housing Advisor, or at Cruz Housing Advisor, and Daniel Cruz.
Nice. There you go. All that information, as always, will be in the description, guys. Make sure you check out mmtbp.com. That's where you can find all these episodes. If you got anything out of this, share it, subscribe, like it, all that fun stuff. Give us a 4 or 5 star review would be fine. That would be wonderful. If you can. If you can't, let me know how we can begin making it worthy of a 4 or 5 star review. Just go to that website, mmtbp.com. Mr. Cruz, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.